The hallway buzzed with tension. The CEO had arrived. Nobody dared speak as the sharply dressed, stoic man walked past in silence, his piercing eyes hidden behind expensive glasses. People whispered about his power, his mystery, and his silence. No one knew his name, only that he had just acquired the entire company in a multi-million-dollar deal. And yet, he hadn't said a single word to anyone since arriving. That morning, as usual, no one greeted him. No one dared. Except for the janitor. Mark Daniels, a quiet single dad in his late 30s, was mopping the marble floors of the executive wing. Worn-out sneakers, a faded uniform, and tired eyes told his story, a man stretched thin between raising his autistic daughter, working the night shift, and never asking for a break. But Mark believed in kindness, even when it wasn't returned. So when he saw the CEO approach, he simply smiled and gave a polite nod. To everyone's shock, Mark then spoke. In fluent Japanese, he said, "Ohayou gozaimasu. Kyo wa tu hai ni naramesu you ni." Good morning. I hope today will be a good day. The hallway froze. The CEO stopped. Turned. And for the first time since he had arrived at the company, he spoke. Anata wa, Nihongo ga hanaseru no ka? You can speak Japanese? Mark nodded modestly. Hi. Watashi wa ni nenkin Tokyo ni sundaimashita. Sensei Toshite Hadarite Ita Koto mo arimasu. Yes. I lived in Tokyo for 2 years. I even worked as a teacher there. The CEO took off his glasses. His face softened. A flicker of emotion crossed his eyes, curiosity, maybe even relief. Without another word, he bowed respectfully and walked off. The silence in the hallway shattered into murmurs and disbelief. The janitor spoke Japanese? The CEO responded? What just happened? But Mark just returned to mopping, as if nothing had occurred. That evening, Mark clocked out and rushed to the daycare. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, lit up when she saw him. Nonverbal since birth, she didn't speak, but her eyes glowed with recognition. Mark crouched down and hugged her tightly. Their life hadn't been easy. Mark had once been a language teacher abroad, happily married. But when his wife died unexpectedly in a car accident, everything crumbled. He returned to the States, broken and unemployed, with a baby to raise. His degrees didn't matter anymore, no family, no savings, just a daughter who needed round-the-clock love and care. So he took the only job he could get, as a janitor. He never complained. He never asked for sympathy. He just worked. Loved. And hoped for better days. The next morning, Mark was called to Human Resources. Panic set in. Was he being fired? Did someone complain? But when he entered the office, 3 executives were waiting. Including the CEO. The same silent man, who was no longer silent. In perfect English now, the CEO stood and extended his hand. My name is Hiroshi Sato. I owe you an apology, he said calmly. I have remained quiet because I didn't trust anyone. My last acquisition was a disaster. People tried to deceive me, flatter me, and use me. I had almost given up on finding sincerity in business, until I heard you speak. Mark blinked in shock. I was just saying good morning. That's what made it real, Hiroshi replied. It wasn't rehearsed. You didn't say it for attention. You said it out of respect. That's something I value deeply. Hiroshi sat down, motioning for Mark to do the same. I read your file. You're overqualified for your position. A former language teacher. Trilingual. And yet, you chose humility over resentment. That speaks volumes. He then slid a folder across the table. I'd like you to join my team as my cultural liaison and executive translator. Starting salary, 6 figures. You'll be working closely with me, both in Tokyo and here. I also have contacts who can help with special education support for your daughter. Mark stared at the folder, eyes wide, heart pounding. He couldn't believe it. I don't know what to say. Just say yes, Hiroshi smiled. Weeks later, Mark walked into the office not with a mop in hand, but a briefcase. He wore a tailored suit, but his humble demeanor hadn't changed. He greeted everyone in their own language, Spanish to the security guard, Tagalog to the Filipino kitchen staff, Japanese to Hiroshi. People no longer ignored the janitor. Because he wasn't one anymore. But even more importantly, Mark's daughter, Lily, began smiling more. With the new resources, therapists, and a flexible schedule, her world started to open. One day, during a visit to the office, she pressed her tiny hand against Hiroshi's suit, looked him in the eye, and whispered her first word ever. "Thank you." Tears welled in Mark's eyes. So did Hiroshi's. Challenges they faced. Mark's grief from losing his wife and being forced to give up his passion and career. Raising a special needs child alone, balancing work and care with no support. Being overlooked, ignored, and treated as invisible by people who judged him by his job title. Hiroshi's deep mistrust from being used and deceived in the corporate world. 2 men, from different worlds, both carrying invisible scars, until one word in a shared language changed everything. The message. Never underestimate someone based on their uniform, their silence, or their position. Hidden behind humble eyes could be a heart full of strength, wisdom, and story.